Hi, and welcome to this week's mindset video. I wanted to talk to you a little bit this week about the importance of noticing progress. By now, you have accomplished so many different kinds of activities with your child. You've worked on recognizing letter sounds and capital and lowercase letters. You have counted over and over again. You have engaged in some fun science activities like whether things sink or float. You've read, I'm sure, lots of stories and gone on some walks and done so many activities that your child is soaking in all of the learning. I hope that you've had a tremendous amount of fun so far. But I think more than that, I hope that you're starting to let sink in for yourself that you are really capable of preparing your child for kindergarten and beyond. And I hope that you found this process relatively easy. I know that there's challenges along the way, but that you're starting to develop a sense of what works for you and your child. Noticing this progress is so incredibly important for several reasons. And I want to talk to you a little bit about some different ways to track progress, because when you look at it on a day-to-day basis, it's easy to not be able to really see how much you're really accomplishing. The days slip by and you know you're doing activities, but it's very hard to grasp how much you're actually doing and how much your child is actually learning if you don't have a way of tracking it and of looking back to reflect on where you started and how far you've come. So there's lots of different ways to do that. You need to find a way that works for you, because not every way works for every person. I definitely know that. And so I'll talk a little bit about some of the ways that I've tried, and hopefully you'll find one that really fits with your life and the way that you work. But one of the things I wanted to mention before we get into that is that you want to not just notice the academic progress or the fine motor skills progress that your child is making, but you want to pay attention to notice what I call these unseen wins, which are more of the intangible qualities of the progress that you're making. These might be changes in your own mindset, developing more of a confident attitude in teaching your child, or developing your own philosophy of learning that works for you and your kid, and how you want education to be approached with your child and in your home. They can be things like an increased quality or amount of time spent with your child, that you notice that just, the time that you're spending with them is more purposeful time, that you're getting more out of it, your child is getting more out of it, that it's more of a bonding experience, a learning experience. Those are unseen wins as well that are really hard to quantify. It's not, it's not my child counts to, this number now. It's really those intangible things, and that they're really some of the most important things to be noticing, because they will improve your confidence. They will encourage you to keep going when you do hit a challenging spell. Also, developing a learning partnership with your child. So just that relationship, which is so fundamental, not just to their success in this preschool program that you're doing, but beyond, so far beyond. Whether you continue to educate them at home or whether they go into a traditional school setting, that partnership that you're forging now with your child, so incredibly important to the future and to how you're going to work with them in the future on everything, whether it's helping them with their schoolwork or whether it's things around your home and just your family dynamic, forging that really close partnership of being a team and of working together and of being on one another's side to overcome challenges. That's being forged right now. And so noticing that is an incredibly important aspect of noticing the progress that you're making. So how do you track your child's progress? And at this age, there's so many things to note down that don't fall into a nice, neat checkbox. It's not, we have our objectives, and, I encourage you to check those off. My child counts to 20 now, and, my child knows 15 letters of the alphabet and their sounds, and All of those are wonderful objectives to check off the list. And that's certainly one great way to track progress, is to literally make a list and do a checklist. But there's also, especially at this age, so many other things that are a little bit more ephemeral than that, my child made the funniest joke today, or the most insightful observation. And you want to capture that stuff down too. Or they're doing, a project, they're building a Lego structure, or they're, balancing on the balance beam at the park, and you want to capture those things as well, even though that's not in a traditional sense. They're not turning out volumes of worksheets that you can put in a binder to see, how much your child is progressing. So this is why I really encourage moms of preschoolers to find alternative ways to document what their child is doing, because it's not like an older school child where at the end of a month or a semester, you have a giant stack of worksheets to look at. You need to make sure you're catching those other things that don't come in the form of a written piece of paper, so that you can look back and see, wow, my child is really doing a lot, accomplishing a lot, learning, exploring, growing. And so one of those ways I just mentioned is to take pictures. You can capture that really easily. We all walk around with our phones, and that's a fantastic tool to use to document what your child is doing every day. Take some snapshots of different things your child is involved in and playing with, record some short videos, and then you can have a little file folder set up that you can just drop those into. Have one I encourage you to break it up into kind of monthly chunks of however it is that you keep records, so that you can look back and reflect over a period of time. That's where you notice and you see the big gains. You might want to look back and reflect at the end of every week, but I especially encourage you, like maybe at the end of every month, to set aside a time to look back and say, what did we do this month? And because it's so easy to forget. I'm constantly forgetting by the end of the month what we were doing at the beginning of the month. And when I take the time to look back and reflect on my records or my photos and my videos of that, it astonishes me every single time, and it's really encouraging. And it does provide a portfolio for your child as well. You're building a portfolio of their accomplishments. So photos and videos, just whipping out your phone and using that to capture these moments, that's a fantastic thing to do. If your child says something, particularly witty, or maybe recites a poem that they know or sings a song that they know, you can capture that on voice recording. You can use a little voice recorder and capture that. If they say a particularly long word, the name of a dinosaur or something, and you want to capture how cute that sounds when they say it and how well they say it, capture that on voice recording. Obviously, you will have some paper that you should have a folder for, where you can look back and collect their art and the worksheets that they do. There will be some of those at this age, so you want to track that as well. Photos are another great way to capture projects that your child works on that maybe you don't want to save. Sometimes the art projects, or obviously the Lego creations, are going to get torn down and rebuilt. So that's a great way to document these bigger projects that maybe you don't want to actually hang on to, but you want to somehow save that record that they've done them. So photos are another great way to do that as well. If you're a paper person, I have a paper journal, or it's a paper scheduling book, and I kind of use it as my journal. It's not just to keep track of what I'm supposed to do each day and my appointments, but I also make notes in there of the fun stuff that we did that day, where we went and what we did and kind of what we were working on. You can make notes of like what book you read that day. So if you're a paper person and you're not into keeping a specific journal, I'm not a journaler, I'm really bad at it. And so if by just using my diary to jot down notes of what we did that day, that's a really easy way for me to keep track of that. I also am trying to be more and more of a technology user and use my app. There's so many note keeping and journal keeping apps available to help you do this, but I just use the Google Notes app, and I put a little note in there for each day. And the fun thing about this is that they're searchable. So if you want to remember a specific event that happened, you can go in and search your notes for when that happened. But I can attach to that little Google Note a photo from the day. I can just jot in there real quick what we did, or even use my voice feature to talk into my phone and say what we did that day, or capture a little voice recording of of one of my children talking about what we did that day. And that's a really easy way to just keep track of what you're doing, what you're working on, what your children are progressing in, and then be able to search and look back and see what you've done. The benefits of this are almost too many to really tell you. You not only create this portfolio of work, of what your child is really learning and really doing, but this is such an incredible way to remember this time that you're spending with your child together. It's a great memento to look back at. I can tell you from having older kids that they love looking back at my records of what they were learning and doing and seeing the pictures of themselves and remembering, oh, I remember that day that we did that, or the time that I built that. So it's a fantastic just family memento of this time together. But I think more than anything, it serves as a confidence booster and as a reminder when things do get challenging and difficult that you are more than capable of teaching your child of how much you have already accomplished, of how you've overcome challenges previously, and you'll be able to do the same again. And it's really just self-inspiration to keep going and keep overcoming. So I highly recommend that you maybe try out a few different things, find the thing that works for you, or maybe multiple things, paper, app, photos, whatever works for you, to really systematically track what you're doing with your child. I hope that you found this helpful. I want you to just pause for a moment and celebrate all of the progress that you've made so far. And it's going to continue to grow and grow as your child learns more and more. And I'll see you next time.